Good afternoon, ladies and gents. It's the 25th of August, 2025. And I wanted just a quick discussion about the main man, Trump. I'm just going to talk about him just for a couple of minutes and yet more bullshit that's just coming out of his mouth. And people are wondering why, we do not or cannot trust our governments at the moment. Of course, I'm based here in the UK, and Trump is trying to, be the president of the United States. But the only reason I'm mentioning this, in fact, the only reason I've done any videos on Trump is because I follow war and conflict around the world. Because one day that may affect me and my family. So, as normal, the US are involved in most wars and conflicts around the world. I'd say, certainly when Trump is involved because unfortunately, or fortunately, war is a business. And that brings me on to the subject that we're going to cover now. I'm just going to throw up some slides, guys. It's going to be as quickly, I'll get this done as quickly as I can, because because we're talking about Trump. If any of you have been following the Ukraine conflict and even the Middle Eastern conflict, you'll know that Trump's nose is never too far away. And that brings me to the main topic. So not sure about you guys, but all I've heard Trump yap on about is two main things throughout his how long's he been in office now? 7, 8 months, something like that. And there's two things that he kind of, I mean, he talks about a lot, but there's two sort of things that he tends to sort of repeat himself about. How, if he was president instead of Biden, how there would never have been a war in Ukraine with Russia. Now, God knows why he thinks that. He's really under the illusion that he can resolve absolutely everything, when in fact he can't resolve anything. Certainly when we're talking about conflicts. So the second thing he hasn't stopped yapping on about, certainly lately, he, well, how he sort of stopped 4, 5. Well, it started off at sort of two wars. It's gone up to 4, 5, 6, and now even I think it's 7 wars over the last 7 months. That's all he keeps going on about, how he's stopped 7 wars over the last 7 to 8 months. See, we all saw Biden deteriorate during his last months in office. His health, was clearly sort of taking a hit. He struggled stringing a sentence together. And on many occasions, he struggled to remember, why he was even sort of stood there on the political stage, giving hard to decipher speeches to the rest of the world. Now, I'm not sure what you think, but I see Trump's health taking a bit of a hit at the moment over the last few months. I know he's 78, 79 years old, but visibly, physically, you can kind of see his presidency's it's starting to take its toll. And I'm not surprised, to be honest, because what with everything that's going on around the world and that level of responsibility, as well as sorting out, the United States. But if you don't mind, I'm going to quickly break down his bullshit regarding these wars that he has or hasn't stopped, and because I think it's important that we kind of clarify what he's saying. So when reading up on these so-called stopped or resolved wars, there is only one that he could, or that I can find, that he could possibly get away with saying that he stopped. We need to understand what that actually means. I stopped this war and that war. Has he actually stopped any wars, or is he just stopping battles? Because there's a difference, or a significant difference, between the two. So a battle, in short term, is a specific, is relatively short military engagement between opposing forces, with a focus and an objective, whilst a war is normally a prolonged, normally large-scale conflicts involving multiple battles or campaigns, or broader political and territorial or ideological goals. So essentially, a battle is an event within a war. This will make sense in a minute, guys. So Trump may have stopped ongoing battles. This is where I see, his philosophy, and he's just calling them wars. But in most of these cases, he hasn't even stopped the battles. So the only one that I can honestly take, not me, but he can take credit for, that I can find out of these six. Is it 6, 7, anyway, whatever it is. is the Armenia and Azerbaijan war. So on the 8th of August this year, 2025, Trump was able to broker a peace deal between the two countries, and both sides said, quite honestly, that they were ready to end their nearly 40-year conflict. Israel and Iran. So I'm going to start with this recent one. We're all going to be familiar with this, the war between Israel and Iran, that he calls the 12-day war, which stemmed from the conflicts in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen, all of which are still raging on as we speak. But as I mentioned just now, Trump may have stopped the battle that lasted 12 days. But that war, guys, in fact, hasn't even got started yet, really. Both sides are preparing for all-out conflict with each other for battle number two or phase number two, whatever you want to call that. And the irony of this is that the US will be involved in the war that Trump claims that is resolved. In fact, the war in Iran is going to be on a massive scale. Now, they know where. So if we're going off the back of, I mean, the whole purpose of this really, or the US's engagement is going to be searching for and locking down the 400 kilograms of enriched uranium. Okay, so they're going to be, they're not going to stop this until that's been resolved. I'm going to move on. Pakistan and India. Some of you will remember the small, it's so small, actually, I'm going to call it an argument. Because that's all it was between Pakistan and India a couple of months back, which only lasted for 4 days. Trump claims that after a long night of talks, that he had stopped that war. Both sides may have agreed to a ceasefire. But you have to remember this, guys. A ceasefire is actually a strategy of war and not peace. Trump may have stopped the little argument, which of course is, a conflict that has been sort of bubbling away since 1947. So moving on to actually, let me just finish off. Let me just go back. Actually, I haven't given it much. I haven't given that much time, and it needs it. I just want to explain really that the region at the moment remains highly militarized and it's volatile. It's a volatile flashpoint with still today frequent tensions and skirmishes and periodic sort of escalations in that conflict. But we're not hearing about any of that at the moment. Pakistan may have thanked Trump for his intervention during their little nighttime chat. But it's a completely different story coming out of India, who played down any talks involving the US. Hence the reason why Trump probably steamed into India with high tariffs and that. The ceasefire talks were held actually directly between India and Pakistan under their existing sort of channels, which are established between militaries. A lot of countries around the world have got this. They're called back channels, allowing both sides to actually communicate with each other. But yeah, again, that a ceasefire. So a break, if you will, in an ongoing war. The other one that he goes on about is Rwanda and Congo. So this one makes me laugh as well. Trump stating that he's stopped and finished the war between Rwanda and it's the Democratic Republic of Congo. Long-standing hostilities between those two countries flared up after the M23 rebel group. They seized mineral-rich territory in eastern Congo earlier in the year. That's this year, 2025. And again, sorry guys, and again, another ceasefire was signed off between both sides in June of this year. So only a few weeks back. And since the signing of that document, both sides have accused each other of violating the ceasefire. And the M23 rebels, who are linked to Rwanda, have threatened to walk away from the peace talks. In July of this year, which was last month, a rebel group killed at least 140 people, including women and children in eastern Congo. So well done, Donald Trump, for supposedly stopping that war. Okay, another one that we need to, well, not we, well, let's talk about it because Trump is under the illusion that he's actually resolved these, but Thailand and Cambodia. Now, listen to this. On the 26th of July 2025, Trump posted some old shit on his Truth Social platform saying, I'm calling the acting Prime Minister of Thailand right now to likewise request a ceasefire." Again, a ceasefire. But he believed at that time that he was going to end that war. And a couple of days later, the two countries agreed to an immediate, unconditional ceasefire, I think they called it, after they had been sort of fighting for less than a week on their border. So those two countries have agreed to what they call a temporary ceasefire. Sorry, supervisor, a temporary ceasefire. But right now, both sides are raging. It's an information war. They're lashing out at each other in terms of information, publicity, and all the rest of it, keeping both sides on edge. With the media calling it a fragile ceasefire. So yet again, Trump has stopped two sides fighting for now, but we're talking about fragile, temporary, unconditional ceasefire. That alone doesn't really sound too promising in itself, with both sides poised to kick off with each other at any time soon. So nothing has been resolved there by Trump. The Armenia and Azerbaijan. So that was the one that it's probably seen to be the only one that he may have resolved. Is the two little countries? They're down there in the south, squeezed between Russia and Turkey. So those two sides have been fighting since the early 90s. And honestly, this one is about the only one that Trump has resolved. A peace deal was signed on the 8th of August, only 3 weeks ago. Both sides seemed happy to end that war. And this is a peace deal, not a ceasefire. Like I said at the beginning, those are two very different things. A peace deal normally follows a number of failed ceasefires. A peace deal is a step in the right direction. So I'm going to give Trump credit for that one, just for now, until them two kick off again. Excuse me. So let's just rattle through the last two, and then we're finished. So we got Egypt and Ethiopia. He believes that he's stopped that war. There was no war here for Trump to even end. But there has been long, ongoing sort of tensions over what are they arguing over. I think it's the dam. There's a dam constructed across the River Nile. Trump said he'd promised to that the US was they were going to resolve the issue very quickly. Egypt welcomed Trump's words, but Ethiopian officials said that the US risked sort of flaming tensions. So no formal deal has been reached between Egypt and Ethiopia to resolve any differences that they've still got at the moment over the dam on or in or across the River Nile. There was no war there. So, they're merely arguing over a dam, and even the argument hasn't even been resolved. So, yeah, well done, Donald Trump. The last one, and finally, is going to be Serbia and Kosovo. Trump claimed back at the end of June this year, so again, only a few weeks back, that he'd prevented an outbreak of hostilities between them, claiming that the two sides were going to go to war. So yet again, there was no war to even stop. Another dispute that has been sort of bubbling away since again the early 90s, but both sides haven't, they haven't been fighting or firing at each other, so no war to end. And that's it with those. That's the strength of Trump stopping all these wars. Listen, guys, you, me, and everyone around the world are being bullshitted to. By the government supposedly trying to run the countries that we live in. I'm here in the UK, as you know, and the word on the street right now is that Britain is broken. It's falling apart. It's about to boil over to levels on par with civil war. Right now, there are a lot of people moaning off the back of immigration here in the UK. For anyone who lives in the UK, you'll know that this is a focal point at the moment. There is a clear divide being created here, and do you know what? It is the governments that are orchestrating all of this. I believe, because we're not. We don't want to be doing this. Um, but it seems that they're turning us against each other while, they continue to sort of sit there on the public stage and blatantly lie to everybody. Trump is full of so much shit. He's better off walking around with a bucket around his neck to just catch it all in. I don't blame them for lying. A bit, they're always doing it. Okay. That's part of the job description. And when I say that, I'm talking about your politicians, whoever it is that's stood there waffling away. I blame them for fucking up Brexit and forcing 350,000 EU and non-EU people back home. I blame all the governments for orchestrating the development of the man-made virus back in 2019 and deploying it out onto the public domain, killing, or shall we say, culling the rapidly increasing global population. And with that, 170,000 more EU and non-EU sort of people left the UK. I blame the governments for that. But I don't blame them for wanting to get the 520,000 shortfall of workers sort of back into the country. I do blame them for weakening the British society, forcing people out of work. I blame them for the 9 million people in the UK now claiming, disability and incapacity benefits. I blame them for causing the situation we're in today. They have caused, the fracturing of the United Kingdom, because that's how it seems at the moment. They've weakened our economy. They have weakened the people. The people have become weak and disillusioned. Now, they're in a bit of trouble in that there are more people looking for work than there are jobs. 727,000 vacancies across the UK in June of this year, and you've got 1.67 million people looking for work. That's unsustainable. 1.1 trillion pounds, UK pounds, received in tax receipts in the last financial year, and nearly 300 billion going straight back out to people on benefits. That's unsustainable. But now they're fixing some of those problems by bringing in the immigrants. At least 85% of them will be working, no doubt, doing or taking many of those 727,000 vacant jobs that the British people think they're too good at doing. Now, not gonna go on about this, but guys, I'm just wanted to just emphasize the bullshit that comes out of the government's mouths. They know what they're doing, and that's it. There's a hidden agenda, and we'll find out what that is soon. So slightly off track, but needed to be mentioned because this is what everyone's talking about at the moment. Always look at the bigger picture, guys, and you'll better understand what's really going on. Until next time, this is a short video. I've got another one coming out very, very well in the next hour or two.